So when Guha asked me, what is, that you will be able to talk about, give me a topic, I just thought that often we feel, I think this has been in the சுய பச்சாதாபம் பத்தி நிறைய பேசியிருக்காங்க. இவங்க ரேவதி மேடமும் பேசினாங்க, சுவாமிஜியும் சொன்னாரு, பெண்களுக்கு நிறைய சுய பச்சாதாபம், செல்ஃப் பிட்டி இருக்குன்ட்டுன்னு. பல நேரங்கள்ல ஏன் எனக்கு இந்த மாதிரி ஆகுது, எனக்கு மாத்திரம்தான் இப்படி ஆகுதா, நான் மாத்திரம்தான் இவ்வளவு கஷ்டப்படுறேனா அப்படிங்கிற கேள்வி பல பேருக்கு இருக்கு. So I think when you translate it into English, I thought that, am I the only one to suffer like this? Am I the only person to feel like this? Why is this happening to me is a question which is asked by every woman, whether they are going through a difficulty or not going through a difficulty. Even through good experiences, most of the women have this sort of a question in their mind. And whatever I am going to tell about the women who are facing pandemic is not exclusive only to women. And I think that most of the things which is happening during the pandemic in the last 1.5 years is known, understood by everybody. So what I am going to do is not something very, very new, but in an organized manner. So we set up the whole situation, and then we understand what is it that we have to do. We as women have to do to be able to deal with not only this pandemic, but the pandemic of life. I think the life itself is such a big, journey that it could be a very, very long, difficult issue. If you saw somebody's book like Scott Peck, the first sentence in the book is, who said life should be easy? So that's the opening sentence of the book. So life often is not very, very easy. And that's why we are taking the example of the pandemic, and we are trying to learn what can apply in the pandemic and what is it that we can apply to our daily life otherwise as women. All right. Okay. So the outline is women in a pandemic. What are the psychological aspects and mental illness? I am very, very keen that all the 100 people who are on this forum should understand what do I mean by mental illness and what do I understand by emotional aspects or psychological aspects, because we often have this confusion. And then how do we go from a situation, how did we go, or how do we go from a situation of being female to a woman? And then how do I empower myself? I think both Swami and Dr. Subbulakshmi have pointed out a lot of characters from the history and mythology and very many stories and real people to understand that women are powerful. But I am talking about an ordinary woman like me. So I understand, I see all these people, but how do I make myself, and what are the steps I have to take to go towards that goal of becoming an empowered person? So are there any methods to follow? That is what we would talk about in the next 40 minutes. I think I would talk about 30 minutes and then I would stop and then you can ask questions. Is that all right? All right. Okay. So this is a woman is on a bed of arrows most of the time throughout the life, almost like, Pitama Bhishma, who was on a bed of arrows. And if you look at the arrows on the left, this is much more to what is happening during the pandemic. And then if you look at the right, you would find that it is much more to do is what is happening at home, whether it is pandemic or not pandemic, it is almost the same. Some things may be very specific to pandemic. So there is a lot of worry for every woman regarding, will we get the infection? Will I get the infection? Will my family get the infection? Will we be hospitalized? Will there be a bed available? Will there be an ICU available? What will be the cost? It seems to be enormous. ICUs are very lonely. What happens if I die? What happens if any of my family members die? Because it's a very lonely journey. You all know that nobody can come and be with you when there is a corona. And then what happens during a lockdown? What is about the economical? If my family is running a business, what happens to the business? What happens to the vaccination? Is there an availability of vaccination? Will the family get any reactions, side effects of the vaccines? Will I get it? What happens to income? what about my family? If my spouse and children are here, it's all right. But if my child is living away from me, or my parents are living away from me, what happens to them? What happens to my neighbors? Can I trust them? Are they telling the truth about the corona, whether they have infection? So there is a lot of mistrust about the people around also. Not only worry, but a lot of mistrust. Whom should I believe? Should I believe what is happening on the TV? What the other people, the WhatsApp messages? It's so confusing. And then you also come to home. If you're a career woman, you're working from home, very, very long hours, significant deadlines, because you're working not from 9 to 5, you're working from 7 to probably 10 in the night on your computer. So I think a lot of deadlines, postponing decisions. For example, if your son or daughter has to get married, or a grandchild has to have a birthday celebration, all are postponed, all at home, high noise level, high crowding, longer routines, more snacks, more dishes to be washed, less of support. Children and spouse may not help in washing the vessels, or, cleaning the place. Social media, now everybody wants to start a YouTube channel. So daughter will say, Amma, you do this, you do that, you give this, and, film me. So other extra roles, no time to self, because everybody is there all the time. And then some of the funny things which can happen during, for younger people, is unexpected pregnancy, because everybody is at home all the time. A lot of misunderstanding, a lot of fights. It can end in violence, many a times either verbal violence or physical violence. And we think it is quite normal. And some of the women, whatever is prescribed to them, they can either abuse because of the pain in the body, because mind and body are so related. There is a lot of aches and pains, so they may abuse. I see a lot of women, they will come and ask me, can I take 2 ibuprofen, doctor, instead of 1? Can I take 4? And then somebody else will come up to me and then say, can I take, instead of 1 Valium, 2 Valium? Can I take alprazolam, Restil, instead of 0.5? Can I take 1? So these are questions which often people, and they abuse it on their own. So this is what happens in the larger country and also at home. So as a result of which, the woman is constantly worried, tense, frustrated, fatigued, irritable. Irritability, we all need to understand, is a very, very muted form of anger. Anger, irritability in the Vishwarupam becomes anger. And then a lot of sadness, because once you become anger, then there is always a lot of sadness and the guilt which follows that. And then there is a lot of course, anger can also lead to rage. After all this, there is a lot of numbness and shock. Did I do this? Nana ipdi nadanditen. Nana ipdi vandu sattam poten. Nana adichen. So then you become so numb, and you become like a statue. And then there is a lot of mistrust on yourself and all the people who are around you. How can they do this to me? It's a question which constantly acts, and then always ends with, am I the only one who's suffering like this in this life? And that leads to the question, ayyo ponnave porakka kudadu. So almost it goes directly to attacking the whole of the human race. So this is what happens on a bed of arrows. And you know that this bed of arrows, even for Bhishma, was a very, very long time. So that leads us to, we are talking about psychological effects. So what is the difference between psychological issues and mental illness? Because very many people, and we do not, like, as psychiatrist, I'm a psychiatrist, not a psychologist. So very many people talk about people being mad, crazy, loony, and these are words which we do not like anybody to use, because the difference between being normal and not being normal is a very, very thin line. What happens to my client, my patient, can happen to me tomorrow. And I'm not immune from that. Just as a doctor is not immune to corona, I am also even a psychiatrist. Even I think, according to me, God, whoever it may be, is not immune to any psychiatric or mental illness or psychological issues. If you see the psychological issues, these are things which are slow to evolve. They don't happen. Of course, if somebody talked about the death of the father, then there can be a lot of grief. That's a psychological issue. And these are small changes. Very many negative life events can happen in the life, and they are more like daily hassles. Why I want to point out that is, we have daily hassles which are like the ஒழுகிற tap. Tap அப்படியே பூரா பிஞ்சு போச்சுன்னா உடனே we will call the plumber. ஆனா சொட்டு 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 சொட்டுன்னு ஒழுகிட்டு இருந்தா நம்ம பிளம்பரை கூப்பிட மாட்டோம். But that is what actually drains your water tank rather than a tap which suddenly gives way, and then you call a plumber and it is done. So the chronic hassles are more draining than crisis in our life. Okay. And you always perceive when there are chronic hassles, everybody will say, oh, the bus ஒரு நாள் கூட டயத்துக்கே வருது இல்ல, தினம் இந்த எனக்கு மேல இருக்கிற அம்மா தினம் கம்ப்ளைண்ட் அப்படின்ட்டுனா, somebody else will say, oh, what is so special about it? It happens to all of us. Why are you complaining? So nobody will support you when daily hassles are there. So there is a perceived lack of support both in the office and in the neighborhood and also within the family. So women become highly stressed and the coping styles are not very effective. You try to humor, you try to watch some serial, and that they do not help you in anywhere. But you continue to function. You feel anxious, you feel depressed, you feel sad, and you panic. But on the days when things happen very well, things are all right, you are able to enjoy life, and you continue to function. இது என்னன்னா, if you go into the population and then with a survey and then ask people, 50% of the people will have say, yes, நான் நேத்திக்கு ராத்திரி சரியா தூங்கல, நேத்திக்கு சரியா சாப்பிடல, ஏண்டா இந்த உலகத்துல பிறந்தோன்னு இருக்கு, சந்தோஷமே இல்ல. About 50% of the people will say this. That doesn't mean that they are all mentally ill. They are just stressed. So, and most of the treatment is non-medical in the form of what we are going to say. That how do I make myself strong? How do I vaccinate myself against stress? On the other hand, if you look at mental disorder, which is what we specialize in, it can start suddenly. There is a definite change in the sleeping, eating, and self-care, not for a day or two, for months, for weeks. And then there is a definite break in the coping. It's not that you cope good on some days and you don't cope well on some days. There is a definite breaking in the way the person functions, and there are a group of symptoms which go together. For example, fever is only a symptom, but when somebody has to be diagnosed as typhoid, you should have other symptoms also. So there are a group of symptoms for every mental illness, and the person doesn't even understand that the person has mental illness, and this becomes the most difficult issue for the family members because they will not take treatment and their judgment is affected. Only 10% of the people in the population at any point of time will have mental illness, not 50% of the people like psychological effects. All mental illnesses are treatable. They can recover and then lead a normal life as much as possible. It is much more to do with the people often think, doctor ஒரு MRI எடுத்துருங்களேன், டாக்டர் ஒரு CT scan எடுத்துருங்களேன். It is not an anatomical change. It is more the functioning of the neurochemicals of the brain and the neurocircuits of the brain which is affected in mental illness. So do not think that all stress related issues are mental illness. Mental illness are like any other illnesses of the body. They are just affect the brain and the functioning of the brain, and they can be treated. And if you find anybody who has definite mental illness, please immediately contact a doctor, your family doctor or a psychiatrist to be able to, and it's only the psychiatrist who can prescribe medication. Okay. Now let us come to female to woman. I think Revati madam spoke enough about how a female is a very superior. I thought I will tell it biologically. We have double X and men have X and Y. You all know that. And all of you should need to understand that that Y chromosome is an incomplete chromosome. So இங்க ஒரு ஃபீமேல் குரோமோசோம்ல இப்படி எக்ஸ் இருக்கிறதுல இதுல இன்னொன்னுல வந்து ஆண் குரோமோசோம்ல ஒன்னு மிஸ் ஆயிருக்கு. அதனால தான் it is Y. So an incomplete chromosome becomes a Y chromosome. So chromosomally, women are stronger than men biologically, and every fetus, every கரு, every குழந்தை கருவா இருக்கிறப்ப முதல் சில வாரங்கள், at least first 2 weeks, it starts as a woman child. Every one of us started as a woman child. Then there is a change, and then the testosterone and other hormones come in, and then a boy becomes a boy child. So what we need to understand is we all start as a girl child in the fetus, and then the sex is determined. And if you look at the Homo sapiens, the people, human race, we are about 200 to 300,000 years old, but civilization is about 40,000 years old. And some of the fossils which we have, archaeological studies have said that the first man or woman or person was a woman and not probably a man. We do not have the final word, but it was probably a woman rather than a man. And from there, but we are always called the weaker sex, the fairer sex, the second sex, though we are the first sex. And we don't understand that. From being a female, which is a stronger sex, we have become a woman. So you would find woman is almost embedded in the family, which is the next round, and then the society, religion, culture, and then by the government, the laws and the system, everything. So we are embedded by multiple layers around us, which almost, sort of crowd upon us, for good or for bad. I'm not saying being judgmental, but we are almost embedded in a system of multiple layers, and then the first being the family. Okay. When this is the situation, we are talking about empowering ourselves. So what is it that we talk about empowering? Whom to control and whom to change? To empower women, because we are talking about empowering women. So whom should we change? Whom should we control to change, to empower women? What is it to be controlled and what is it to be changed? How to control and how to change? So all these are questions which repeatedly people ask, because we have multiple committees for special reservations for women. We have special laws for women. We have separate departments for women. Women and child welfare is a separate department in the government of India. We have dowry death acts. We have Domestic Violence Act. These are all in favor of Inheritance Act, which was mainly, we initially started with the Sharada Act. So these are all towards women, empowering, giving special privileges to women. So is this what we are talking about, empowering? Probably yes. I'm not saying no at all. But is that all we are talking about? That the government should make more and more laws to give privileges to women? Are we talking about the religion becoming more kind to a woman? Are we talking about the family changing, where the husband says, yeah, you run the family, you hereafter will be declared the head of the family? So is that what we are looking for? I don't think any of us, at least I don't think I have the power to change the government laws or the system within my lifetime. I don't think I have the power, or any of you have the power to change the society, religion, or the culture in your lifetime, or your family or tradition in your lifetime. The only thing which can happen, which can change, is us. We can only change ourselves and not anybody else. The only person who can be controlled, who can be changed, who can be empowered is us by us. So what we are looking for is to improve. We are not looking for privileges and rights. Probably we need that also. But here in this forum, we are talking about to improve our outlook and our attitude and take small steps individually towards changing what we consider ethically not okay. I think that I would stress a lot, because we talk about very many times women say that ஐயோ என்னோட வீட்டில் இப்படி நடக்காது, அது சரிப்பட்டே வராது, ஐயோ எங்க எங்க ஜாதியில இப்படி ஆகாது, எங்க குலத்துல இப்படி ஆகாது, எங்க ஊர்ல இது நடக்காது, நான் என்ன நினைக்கிறேனோ அது நடக்காது. So we constantly talk about our family, our tradition. I'm not saying that they should not be a deciding factor, but they are not the excuse for us not to become empowered. And that is what we are all looking at it today. And when we talk about us, I think this has been touched even by Swamiji, that there are only 3 things we are talking about. We are not talking about huge things. Each of us are made by only 3 things, which is our thoughts, our emotions, and then these 3 affect our actions. And nobody can see your thoughts or your feelings unless they see your action. Only when you smile, they know that you are happy. So that smiling is an action. If you smile inside and you are not showing it, nobody can know that you are happy. And if you are thinking, oh my God, this person has come into the room, she is going to, sort of bother me, and then keep a very strict face, nobody will know that you are having such a thought. And if your mother-in-law comes in and you say, I wish she is dead, nobody is going to know unless you put that thing and then you tell your husband, why is your mother here? So only then somebody knows, your mother-in-law knows that she is not wanted. So both our thoughts and feelings are reflected only in our actions. And what are actions? These are small steps which we repeatedly do to indicate, to go towards a goal. Every one of our action is towards a goal of something or the other. Suppose I get up from this place, I have a goal of either going to the toilet or going and getting a cup of water. So every one of our action is determined by what we are going to do next. So, and this is what we are planning right now. This morning, I just switched on the TV and I saw this. There was a lady who was talking and said, why smart women make bad decisions and how critical thinking can protect them. And already Swamiji and all talked about emotions. Women are seen as an emotional thing, nothing wrong in that. But I think often women cite themselves by seeing that emotional is being weak. No. When we talk about coping, that is when we talk about சமாளிக்கிறது, எந்த ஒரு துன்பம் வந்தாலும் நம்ம சமாளிக்கிறோம். இந்த சமாளிக்கிறதுல there are 2 aspects to any coping. One is an emotional coping, one is an action-oriented coping. What is an emotional coping? I have lost my father. So the first thing I do is cry. That's an emotional coping because it gives way to your grief. But you cannot be just crying and sitting there. You have to get up, pack your cases, go to the place where your father has died, probably make arrangements for the funeral. And by the time you are going, you would have informed other people. So there are a lot of actions which are involved in a coping. So emotional coping is good, but it has to be followed by an action-oriented coping. And we often forget that they are all based on this action-oriented coping is based on your thoughts. And we need to think, very important, I will come here. I thought that I will put it here because I am a very big believer in skills. And what are skills? திறமைகள். Because 2-3 தடவை சுபலட்சுமி மேடம் வந்து பேசினாங்க. Who else? Somebody else talked about potential Shakti and kinetic Shakti. I think it was Dharini. And potential Shakti, what she said, it needs kinetic Shakti, which is what is the action. Okay. 2-3 விஷயம் I think womenல நம்மளோட எண்ணங்களை நம்ம மாத்திக்க வேண்டிய அவசியம் இருக்கு. One is நான் மட்டுமே தான் சாதிக்கணும். I alone should be doing everything in this house or in this office or in this system. Or why should I alone be doing it? That's the other question which comes to everybody's. And then we always think that, what is this achievement? What is this empowerment? Should I become somebody like, let me take the example, Jhansi Rani or Indira Gandhi? Is that what is, empowering, becoming famous, or, becoming the director of something, or the prime minister of a country? And what is the difference between, we constantly talk about our duties, but we often forget about our skills, our abilities. So this picture, if you look at it, talks about your developing your skills, where your duty is the goal, but what you need, if you have to reach a goal, you have to take the steps. And your steps are these sort of abilities. And these abilities are only in 4 directions, 4 quadrant. One is towards the skills about yourself, the skills about your ability to solve problems and make decisions, your skills in your relationship, that is outside you. So within you is what you think about yourself and how you can do things to change that, or improve on that, or build on that. And then the next one is, how do you face problems and make decisions? How do you look at your own relationships, and how do you communicate that to the relationships, so that there is a feedback to the self, and then it goes up in a cycle. So if you look at it in the pandemic area, look at it in the pandemic area from the self, you can see that what is it that self-pity, I think people have said, Revati madam has said enough about it. Instead of having self-pity, what is it that needs to be done every day? So can I make a priority of what are the things which need to be done for my work and for my house? And then what are the things which I can do with a lot of ability, which is what the listing of my own strengths and my own limitations. And then once having done that, we need to take responsibility for those decisions which you have done. Then state the problem. Suppose you're not a very good, you don't like cooking, but your daughter or your son or your husband likes cooking. Can you delegate that, or do you continue to think that it is the duty of the woman to feed everybody in this house? If you don't think that is the issue, then there is no problem, because somebody else will cook for you. But on the other hand, if you constantly think it is the duty of the woman to cook in the house, then it becomes a problem. Then what do I do about it? That becomes an issue. Then you have to you have to come up with more and more options to solve that problem. So problem solving is not solving a problem just because your family said, or your friend said, or that is the way it has been done in your family, but coming up in your own mind with more and more options of solving a problem, addressing a problem, and communicating it that to the other person who's in the family. So when you state that, then it goes to the relationship. I think in the skills, two things I would always, or 3 types of skills I would always like to tell women. Women are very, very passive because they would say yes to everything, though they don't like it. And then they become aggressive, either having a meltdown or shouting. But what we like women to do is actually, when they have a particular need, to talk about it openly. So there is a difference between being a passive communicator, being an assertive communicator, and an aggressive communicator. When you say yes to everything and later don't even do it, it becomes passive. On your other hand, you say, no, I don't think I should be hanging the clothes. I have washed the clothes. I think you should be hanging it either to your husband or to your son or your daughter. You're just saying that you have done your part, and then that should have been discussed earlier also, and then they are doing their part. Or feeling that, oh, why are you doing this? I should be doing that. Again, that becomes a passive thing because you think that you have only responsibilities and no rights. The other is the aggression, where you go on to somebody else saying that you have no right to, especially to a daughter, you have no right to rest. You should be doing everything. That you are going on to the rights of somebody else. So we should know that often we should be assertive rather than passive or aggressive. And it is not only in the case of aggression is only raising the voice. Sometimes you can be a very soft spoken person, but still you can be very aggressive. Some of the dictators are very soft spoken, but they are very aggressive because they will say, just go and kill all of them. That's aggression. I'm sure you all are, understand that. So this is very important, that we need to be more often assertive rather than passive, or I think even in our relationship with the other people, whether it is our spouse or our children or our grandchildren or our neighbors, that is very important. At the same time, there is a need for us to listen to what they are saying very actively, ask for clarifications, state specifically what you want, cooperate with them, especially during a pandemic time. Who can share work, what they can do, what they cannot do, what are their responsibilities, making a list of it. How do you assign things? How do you give time to yourself? How do you give time for other people also, so that they can you know um, unwind? And the last thing is to talk clearly. And the idea, when people think about negotiation, they think about winning an argument. These are two different things. Negotiation is very different from winning an argument. Winning an argument is you are right and nobody else is right. Whereas negotiation is probably I am right, but probably you're right, but where can we meet in between? That is negotiation. It's not about who's right. It is about what is right and what we should be doing right now, whoever is right. So there is a lot of difference, and in each one of this, you see that there are smaller steps which women have to look at it and then follow to be able to to improve their skills. And when does it become a skills? These actions become a skills. I'll just go to the other one. I think, okay, fine. Steps of actions carried by you with an intent and easy on demand. So when somebody says, let's look at what needs to be done, if you are able to take out a paper and a pencil and say, okay, these are the things which need to be done throughout the day when we are all inside the house. That means you are aware what things are happening in your house and what needs to be done, who are the people who are all involved, who are within the four walls all the time, what sort of support you have, what sort of support you don't have. So you are able to immediately pay attention to every one of them. That means you are doing it with a lot of awareness, mindfulness. That's what I have written there. So you are the one who can have that mindfulness. Instead of being automatic, it has to be owned. Oh, I did it because, that's what you told me to do. That's automatic. Oh, I did it because that is what it needed to be done. So it's just from knowledge to skills. When does knowledge become skills? When you change your attitude. I think everything has been told about the attitude very beautifully, especially about women. We know that men and women are equal, but we still, within our hearts, we believe that women are not as good as men. That reflects in our behavior of having only male children and preferring male children rather than female children. So unless the attitude, you sincerely believe that girl children are equally as good as male children, we will continue to look for, it is not the men's problem. It is not the fault of them. I don't think it is their problem at all. Often we are the problem and we have to find the solution. And blaming them and blaming the family or the system is not the solution at all. I don't think that's what they said. We have come to believe that. And for various reasons, it has come over the generation. We are not looking for big lotteries. We are looking for small steps so that we can find our way through the jungle, through the pandemic. So instead of becoming your responsibility, that the family should give me the, should protect me, should give me the, sort of tiara or the crown saying that you are doing such a great job. It has to come from within you, that you should be able to pat yourself and then say, I seem to do all right. I think that is what is very important than anything else. I always believe that more than duty, I think it is the skills which are very, very important in every person, more so in women for various reasons, because we have a very long history of believing that we are not the strong sex. And having said that, I think we take a lot of, we talk about women who have achieved great things, whether it is Indira Gandhi or Teresa or um, other people. We always try to follow them, and they are much, much beyond the scope of our actions and our capability and our goals. We are common women who are trying to live within a family, within a neighborhood, and make our life as meaningful as possible. So to take examples from people who have been larger than life sometimes becomes self-defeating, that we are not able to achieve that. And so we say, okay, they had all the things in, I didn't have a father like Jawaharlal Nehru. That becomes our own way of saying that, okay, I didn't achieve, that's because I didn't have the opportunities. We should be taking examples of people who did not do different things, but did things differently. They were ordinary, family, rural women who did things differently. And they made the name not within a day or two, after 40 years, after 50 years. And that's why I have brought in some of these people here. I do not know how many of you know how many of them. One is Salada Maratimmakka, who was a lady who didn't have children. She and her husband went on to plant millions of trees in Karnataka. And after about, I think, 50 years of her work, she was recently, recognized by the government, and there are a lot of things written about her. I do not know how many of you know about Jaswanti Ben Poppet, the Poppet, aplam we all eat. She started the company in 56 with 80 rupees with 7 other women. She is a second standard NAPAS. She did not complete second standard. And today it is $1 million, more than $1 million worth of turnover. And it was not achieved in small ways. And it was absolutely towards a common woman, not big corporate world or anything like that. It was started as a home-based industry for women who were wanting to find some work. And you all know about this Jyoti Kumari, who was a very simple girl. Her just thing was to bring her father back home when he was injured, and he was a migrant worker in summer in South India, and she was in Bihar. And how many of you know Krishnamma Jagannath? Again, a very simple house woman who just said that when the landlords were writing away their property to the land tillers, because the rule became that the person who tilled the land has the right over the land rather than the landlords, the only change she brought in by her constant application to the government and to the various court was that instead of giving the land to the man, it should be registered in the name of the woman if the family should not be affected by alcohol and violence. And that is all she did. That the land, the piece of land should be registered in the name of the woman rather than in the name of the man. And that was a very big turn point for a lot of women who were able to, because after all, if the man is, then he might take it and then pawn it and drink it. But she made a difference. So often it is not what we do differently, but I think how we do things, the same things, but in a different manner. I think I will stop here. I do not know. If anybody has any questions, you can ask me. Thank you. Thank you for being here. And I also thank Guha Kumari, who invited me to this setup. And I thank every one of you for being here. Thank you.
Hari Om. We can shoot our questions to Doctor In the chat box, like, if you want, you can write down, send it
You can
through in chat messages.
yeah,
If you
unmute
want to
yourself.
unmute also, you can raise your hand. If you're unable to, we will unmute you. Any questions, please post. Doctor, can we close the presentation so we can have the grid view of the members?
Oh, yes, sure.
We
How do
have
I
two
close it?
people. We have Manju.
How do I close? Is that what
You,
is coming? Or did I do something wrong?
no, you can just stop presenting. You have to just click there.
Wait a minute. Stop share. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So we have Manju Purushothaman.
Manju
She
Purushottam is a friend of mine.
she has a question.
Tell me, Manju.
It's not a question. I really like the thing. So I'm not a member of anything, just as a friend of you. No, I just participated. Really, it is very nice, no, to think of different views which we have in our heart, but we never express it many times.
I
So it's
think
nice hearing.
yeah, very true. I would like to say that many things in our heart, but we don't express. One important thing I think often women need to, I will give that as a suggestion to the Chinmaya Mission, Maa Shakthi or Devi thing. There is a need for women constantly to do a lot of communication role plays.
Yeah.
When they are young, how do you talk with a stranger? How do you talk with a boy who is trying to bully you? How do you talk with an elder person? And then when you are older, how do you talk to your superior and how do you talk with people who are working under you? I think how do you talk when you are, you know, so I think there is a need for we teach so many other things. There are so many YouTube videos on how to select a sari, how to do upma in 120 ways, how many dosas you can make, but there are no videos I see on YouTube's about how do you communicate. Somebody can start role plays on various situations, especially by women. We all talk about body language when we talk. Okay. Where do you look at a person? How do you look at a person? How much do you gesture? How much do you raise your voice? How much do you agree to disagree?
Yeah, that's it.
When do you walk away from a person? So these are things which we never teach our children. We constantly talk about people who have achieved great things, as a result of which, and they are all so aware. Children who are very smart, they are able to do it. But an average child, an average girl, when she is traveling in a bus, and I'm sure all of you had this experience, when you are in the bus, one of the men touches you behind your back. What do you do? I don't think we have role plays for that.
Yeah.
We need role plays, more and more role plays for when kids, when they are women, when they are young, when they are in their middle age, especially teenage. And then when they are older, how do we prepare? We spend so much of time in nowadays in marriage, engagement, um, functions, spending a lot, but we never sit and talk with our son or daughter. What is it to be married? What are the things which you have to do when you have to work on your marriage or becoming a parent? We think becoming a parent is the most natural thing to do, but we don't understand what a big responsibility it is. So I think we need more and more role plays for, I would believe in that. Of course, I'm very sorry to say my views are very different in world. So I think I believe in this rather than anything else. How do I live my life is the question. Much more need to be answered rather than saying that, do I look beautiful? What matching thing? Nothing wrong in that. I also like all those things. I also like jewelry. But I think we need equally these role plays of youngsters than equally other things. You just, if you, I do not know how many of you have seen Jerusalem a song. There are about 200 videos of it, how to teach Jerusalem a song. How to sing Raja's Malare Maurnama with Swaram. At least I've seen 100 of them. But you don't have a single video on things which I think are skills. Skills are small steps, very, very small steps, where you are aware of it and then you do it. Very, very mindfully. Am I raising the voice? Bring it down immediately. Am I capable of doing that? Yes. I do not know whether it touches a chord in other people. I'm not sure. But this is what I believe in.
Okay. Thank you, Sri.
Srikala,
Who's
you
Srikala
said
now?
that's the difference between being a woman and a female. Can you throw some more light on it?
Yeah. Female is biological. We are all biologically XX chromosome and they are XY chromosome. And as I said, each one of us starts as a female fetus. And then there is for some reason, if the embryo has got the Y chromosome from the father, then there is a production of, there is actually there is a stage before that. And then there is a testosterone which is produced. And then the fetus becomes a male. So that is why you would find even in the transgender, number eunuch cholron illiya, adala there are more male who want to become female because that is what they started and they somewhere along the line things didn't happen the way. Rather than more girls want to become boys. It is biological. So women, as somebody said, biologically are actually very strong. The number of diseases we are affected is less. We live longer than a man. That is why there are more widows rather than widowers. Though we marry men who are older than us, but if you see, if somebody's husband has died at the age of 80, the lady will live up to 85, usually, unless she has multiple complaints. So usually women live longer than men. That is one good indication of their biological strength. But for some reason, because of the civilization and because we nurture the young as an animal group, we nurture the young and we have long periods of pregnancy. We nurture the young for a very long time. These are two important reasons where from a female we have become women. And we are embedded in this multiple system where, at some point of time, man from being a hunter became an agriculturist. So he settled down. When he was a hunter, he was going from place to place. Whereas once he became an agriculturist, he settled down. Then he wanted stability, so he started the orientation of family. So when you have a family, you want the woman to be true to you because you want to increase your genes. So marriage became a necessity. So marriage became legalized. No more living together, the tribal way. And then once you do that, to protect your genes, again, you want to say, woman can be faithful only to you, whereas you can go and have multiple women. I'm not blaming men at all. These are all part of the civilization process so that the genes are multiplied. So from that, because of such things, from female, we have become women. Nobody's fault. Development of mankind. But in the end, now that we understand, and a lot of things have changed, a lot of things have changed in the last 100 years after the Second World War. But why is it that we still hold on to a lot of other things and then we say, they had some reason why they did that, so we should hold on to it? I'm not saying that all things which are old are wrong. In fact, I don't even believe that. But look at it critically. Do you find a reason for you to follow that? Or is it just a belief system? If it is just, I'm not talking about your belief system in, supernatural, religious things. I'm talking about customs, rituals. Look at it critically. Your own belief system on human beings, relationships. Just because your grandmother was mean to your mother, that doesn't mean all mothers-in-law will be bad. Look at your own mother-in-law. Look at your own, probably your daughter's or your son's mother-in-law. And if they are good human beings, change your attitude. Not all men are bad. Men are wonderful. But we need to sort of teach them how to be equal partners. But when we say that we are equal partners, we need to have equal responsibilities. We want rights, but not the responsibilities. Rights can never come without responsibilities. You need to have the rights and the responsibilities. If we are willing, so then you should think and you should say that, yes, I made the decision, I was wrong. Sorry. You just cannot turn around and say, I did it because you asked me to do, or this is how my mother did. Then what happens to your brain? Is it for a museum piece? So those are some of the issues. Thank you, Guha.
Srimati Saraswati Ganesh, you've raised your hand.
Hi, Sri. So nice to see you.
Good. It's evening here.
வந்து
சாயந்திரம் இங்க.
குளிர ஆரம்பிச்சுட்டா.
Oh yes.
வந்து ரொம்ப ரொம்ப நன்னா இருந்தது. Only thing is, I wish I heard you talking like this 1 year back or 18 months back before the pandemic started, because whatever you said, family இதுலேருந்து பார்க்கும்போது I have undergone everything. Like my daughter family, she lived with me she was forced to live with us for 4 months because of this pandemic. அந்த டைம்ல the whole ஃபேமிலியோட ஸ்ட்ரெஸ் ஐ குட் அண்டர்ஸ்டாண்ட். எனக்கு இப்போ அதெல்லாம் ஞாபகம் இருக்கு. ரைட் ஃப்ரம் த கிச்சன் டு பிரிங்கிங் அப் அ சைல்ட், அவளோட வியூஸ் ஜெனரேஷன் மாறும்போது எப்படி வியூஸ் ஆல்சோ சேஞ்ச் in everything, right from bringing up a child and cooking something or laying a breakfast table or whatever it is. அதெல்லாம் நிறைய இருந்தது. But of course we also thought in the other way, positive way, because of the pandemic we could get the family to be together for 4 months together, குழந்தைகளோட எல்லாம் இருந்தோம்னு நிறைய. அதே மாதிரி இன்னொரு பொண்ணு கூட, the way she was stressed out when she is working mother, ஒரு பக்கம் ப்ரொஃபஷன், ஒரு பக்கம் ஃபர்ஸ்ட் ஸ்டாண்டர்ட் படிக்கிற பொண்ணோட ஆன்லைன் கிளாஸஸ், the stress was too much, and she had to handle as a single parent because her husband being in the army was posted in Delhi. So நீ சொன்ன இதெல்லாம் I have undergone, எல்லா ஃபேமிலிஸ்லயும் இது நடந்திருக்கு. The only message I want to take from your whole speech is that நிறைய காரியங்கள் நீ ரொம்ப நன்னா சொல்லியிருக்கே. women have to be passive, aggressive and assertive. And people can be aggressive being very very quiet, soft spoken, like all dictators, as well as my mother-in-law also. I was remembering her also. But excellent lady, I should tell you. And now I have to start. That one example you quoted, I will always try to remember to do what different things and not things differently. Okay?
No, it's just the
It's the opposite.
You do
It's
the
the
ordinary
opposite.
things, ordinary things differently.
Differently.
Because
And
yeah, which is very important, because we always think, oh, you know, she's too much. She's very brilliant. I cannot do that.
yes. So very nice, very inspiring speech. I don't want to take much of the time because others also will be waiting to
Only
talk
thing
with
is,
you.
I didn't know that I had to speak in Tamil. I know Guha told me that, you know, that.
Yes.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
And naduvula, you switched on to Tamil, which was very nice. Nanna irundhathu kekkaradhukku. Very good. Thank you, Sri. Thank you, organizers also. Thank you, Guha, and all others there. Thank you. Bye.
Hari Oma,
I'm sorry.
one
Sorry
last
that
question.
I didn't think that it was necessary to speak in Tamil.
No,
If
we are
Guha had
fine.
insisted,
We are
I would
fine.
have.
I think ellarkume neenga, it was also a presentation. I think we really could understand and grasp, quite important for all of us, especially the younger generation too, to manage all kind of, especially during this pandemic. So anybody else who wants to ask a question, one last question before we close? Yes, Anu.
Madam, I'm Vasanta.
Yes, Vasantama, please tell.
Madam said it's good to be aggressive sometimes. Yes,
Yeah,
you have to put your foot down certain times.
Yeah,
Some
Vasanta madam, I totally agree with you.
You feel
Okay,
guilty later on.
yeah, that's what I was just
How to
saying.
get over that feeling of guilt?
Madam, I think what you are saying, aggression, is what I would call assertive. The
Yes.
different, no, I will tell you the difference. When
Yes.
you say that you don't have a right, I
Yes.
only decide for you, you don't have a right, that is aggression. When you say that you are not recognizing my rights and I am stating my rights, so I will not do this. You know, let all the things, morning I have washed and we agreed in the, you know, together that you would wash and I would wash. I have done mine. So you need to do your one thing. When you state your rights, then it is assertion, though you may be loud. That doesn't mean aggression. That is only a loudness and aggression. But the content is assertion. Sometimes we keep on saying yes, yes, but we don't do it. That is passively becoming aggressive. So as I said, many of the dictators are like Osama bin Laden or Hitler. They were all very soft spoken, but they were very aggressive. They didn't think that other people had a right to live.
How to get rid of the sin? Sometimes we try to put our foot down on certain things. And then we start feeling guilty for a long time.
Why?
I don't know why.
If you think that you have just stated your rights without hurting, without stepping onto their rights, then why should you feel upset about it?
The family relationship, you know, that
You think
gets a little jittery. Then we feel guilty.
I don't think that family, just by saying that, you know, I think what, you know, I also need to have my rights. Nobody will, I'm sure everybody, if your family is a fair family, they would agree to that.
Thank you.
If your family is not a fair family, hard luck on you.
I'm blessed that way. It's a fair family.
So that's why I always say, whenever I say, that's why many times I say my speeches are not political, nor are they very religious, but they are ethical. Everything is based on ethics. What is correct, rather than
I like it very much, madam.
Rather than that you ought to do because somebody told you to do so. No.
Exactly.
That we do when we are younger. That is necessary. Parents should tell what is correct, what is not correct, moral value, ethical value. Parents need to teach. But once you become 18, 19 or 16, 17, you need to sort of rework it in your mind and make it into years. I tell this example also, madam. When you go to a hostel, the hostel room is not yours. It belongs to the university. It belongs to the government. But how do you make it into your room? By putting your own, you know, bed sheet, you're putting your own things around the house, your parents' picture, your boyfriend's picture, you know, the best person whom you like. You make it into your room. so that you are comfortable. Like that, whatever we have learned from our parents and teachers and other things, you work it in your mind and see what is needed, you keep it and you make it yours. And the rest of the things, if you think, no, this is not what I think, I believe. Small example I can tell, I do not know whether I am getting into a difficult area. Menstruation. If I understand it biologically, and if I think that I have, certain difficulties and I need rest, then, I understand. But if it is done, but I know that how my mother and all and grandmother were, you are so dirty, you don't take bath and things like that. Just that was followed just because the family said so. In fact, that would increase the infection, uterine infection. So then you need to work it out yourself. Is this what I want to do? And then rework it. Nothing wrong in that. I don't think you are going against their wish. You are just trying to tell them to be clean is good. To have a bath is good. To follow safety measures is good. So that is all you are trying to say. You are not trying to go and change a civilization which is 5,000 years old. The older the civilization is, it is more restrictive on women, including the Indian culture, because we are almost 5,000 years old. And you would see in the Middle East, the Jewish culture. They are also very long because, humanity started very long there. So the longer the civilization, the more restrictive it is on women. And we need to work it out.
Thank you, madam.